Hey guys, today is the finale video of my Pan That palette for 2018. I'm finally calling it quits. So yeah, let's get started and see what I did. The very first palette, this was the palette that I really wanted to focus on this year. This is the oldest palette in my collection that I wanted to use, and it was time for it to go. So anyways, here we go. Alright, so there is where I ended up. I ended up completely painting two shadows. This one is pretty close. Probably have another, if I would have had another month or so, I could finish that one. This one I didn't even start because honestly, it doesn't look like it because I made a Franken shadow, but the top three colors were not necessarily dupes, but they were so similar, just great all over lid shades. So I decided I didn't even want to start on that one. I would just work on this one because I want to depot that and carry it along with me. These were some of the best formulated shades I have ever used. Let me rest my hand so maybe I won't be so shaky here. But these were some of the best formulated shadows I had ever used. I was happy with this palette. I made a lot of comments before. I remember in my first video, before I ever really used this palette, I'm like, I don't know, you know, a palette full of shimmers, I don't think it's going to work for me. I even brought in one of the other palettes I'm going to show you just because it had mattes in it. I was like, I just don't think it's going to work for me. And I freaking loved this palette the whole year. And I mean, I'm shocked that I did. I didn't miss my mattes when I was using this palette. It had a lot of satins in it. They laid so nicely on the eye. That's the thing, I guess, that I was most afraid of is when you have hooded eyes like I do and you're using shimmers. Sometimes they just don't lay that nicely on the eye, and then I have crepey eyelids, so then you have that to like think about. And these just laid so nicely on the eye. They blended like a dream every single time I used them. And never had any issues with them. The only issues that I did encounter were that I didn't necessarily love a shade. So I didn't love this shade or this shade. I didn't love this one because it might not look like it when I swatch it, but when I would try to use it, no, it doesn't look like it at all. When I would try to use it on my eye and get it blended out really nicely, it was so similar to my skin tone, especially in that, do you see in that shine right there? It almost looked like I didn't have eyeshadow wherever I placed it. So yeah, I liked it and I used it, but it wasn't one of my favorite shades. So I don't care. I'm fine with getting rid of that one, and I'm fine with getting rid of this one. This is another one. I actually... that was similar to my skin tone, but it also had a lot of glitter fallout in this one, so I didn't care that much for it. I am kind of sad to be passing on these two, or not passing them on, you know what I mean. I really like this kind of mushroomy, cool tone shade for me. It seems to work really well, and then just a nice brown. So I am sad to be passing along, or getting rid of the top two, not so much these two, and black I could care less. Black's a dime a dozen. However, this is probably the best black I've ever used. Just in the blendability factor. I could use this for lots and lots of different things. It made a beautiful eyeliner. It made a beautiful black shade. It made a beautiful darkening shade. So I got a lot of use out of this. I don't know that I've ever hit pan on black. Maybe. But as you can see, we have a pretty good dip going on there, and that's probably the most progress I've ever made on a black. These guys I am going to depot and put in like a Z palette because I plan on continuing to use them like right now. I'm going into my next Pan That palette. It's my VZ Art palette, and it has no shimmers at all, so I plan on working through these two before I start digging into any other lid shades. I love that. I love those, obviously. I brought this next palette in because I was afraid that I was going to really miss color. I am a very colorful eyeshadow person normally, however, I just loved those other ones so much. I didn't miss color in the way that I thought that I would. In one video I remember saying that those were very, very bold neutrals, and because they were so bold, I just really enjoyed them. I think if you're like a super neutral person and you like your eyeshadow to look like not no makeup, those weren't shadows for you. So just because they were so bold, they kind of satisfied my needs. I loved that palette, obviously. This guy right here I brought in because it had color in it. I didn't make as much progress as I thought that I would. Let's see. So I am making a lot of progress on this purple. I actually have it in a new project because I want to use it. It's one of the best purples I have ever used in my life. I worked on this green quite a bit throughout the year. I also really like this shade. And then I have kind of dupes right here for some of the neutrals in that palette. They're not quite dupes, but they're very, very similar on the eye. So I'm going to continue to work on this palette a little bit. However, it's also getting old now. So I'm going to have to make a decision on this one as well at some point soon. Soon-ish. Then lastly, this is the newest one to my collection for the Makeup Forever. And it is the All Matte palette. And I specifically, like I said, I brought this one in because I thought I would miss mattes. And the only place I missed mattes at all were all over the lid shade, kind of like setting my eye primer. They're not all over the lid, all over like the whole eye area. What is that called? Anyways, like setting your primer. So, and I did get a lot of use out of this white. I kind of used it as a highlight for inner corner and brow bone, and then I've been using this one a lot recently, and then I did get some use out of this one. I actually used these two quite a bit, not a ton, but I did get some use out of those as well. I am going to hold on to this one and keep using it. I have a feeling that some of it's going to get decluttered. I haven't been super impressed with the grays. Yeah, probably just those two I'm not really impressed with. And honestly, I haven't used the black in here. I don't know that it's the same black that it's in the other palette. So there is that palette. This one will be staying with me. And then once again, I'm getting rid of this palette. Definitely a formula that I would repurchase. I would recommend. I really, really, really enjoyed it. One of the things that surprised me about the formula, I guess, is how long it lasted. How long I was able to use these shadows. I mean, I use these almost every day, and these aren't even the full-size shadow, so I couldn't imagine owning a full-size Makeup Forever shadow. So, like, part of me wants to repurchase a couple of these, not right now, but later on down the road, and I'm like, well, I'll just get some of the full-size ones, and then I'm like, I don't know if I could ever use a full-size Makeup Forever shadow based on how long it took me to make progress in these. So, anyways, that's my update, or my finale, I guess. It was kind of long, but I kind of wanted to recap how much I loved these shadows. I loved them. I've compared them now to many. I'm going to talk specifically about the shimmers and say that I have compared this specific like formula, especially this one. I tend to reach for this one when I compare, but this specific kind of shimmery, creamy formula I have compared to Natasha Denona, and I have compared to now Pat McGrath, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't have so far. Now that I haven't used the Pat McGrath all that much, but so far I'm kind of liking these better. They are pretty expensive when you start looking at the full-size shadows on their own. So it's not necessarily a cheaper brand. I think it's just a less hyped brand at times, and you know, I think we need to remember our Makeup Forevers when we're talking about shimmer shadows, especially because they are good shadows. Anyways, I think they just need to come out with better palettes or more exciting palettes for people, because I think that that's why they're not being talked about as much. Anyways, that is my finale for the Makeup Forever Pan That palette. I'm excited to be moving on to my VZ Art palette. I hope you guys will stay with me and check that out. Please guys, like and subscribe. I happened to notice the other day, I don't usually like read into my analytics all that often, but I was looking the other day and like, I don't know, like 90% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. And I was like, how awesome would it be if some of those people would subscribe? So if you're not subscribed to my channel, hook me up. Stay tuned. I do a lot of decluttering, pan that palette. I do some project panning, not a ton. I do product reviews. I want to get into doing a little more lifestyle stuff and sharing some of my experiences. So I want to share some of my life experience with you guys, share a few things. So if you don't mind, hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys again soon. Bye!